Y'all ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Central Carolina Community Foundation's grant overview session. We are here. It won't take a full hour, so we'll spend a little bit of time with you today talking about really the grants we are offering this year for our fiscal year, which does run from July to June. I have my team here with me, Tremaise Carter. She's here with us. She'll be speaking later, as well as Amber Westbrook. And Chantrell Mitchell is also with us and will also be helping out with today. So we're going to be, again, please enter your name and information into the chat. And you go back one slide, please. And we'll keep on rolling. So for those of you who are new to us, we are Central Carolina Community Foundation. We are ourselves a nonprofit organization. We have a board of directors. We do charitable work. We're a place-based funder here in the Midlands of South Carolina. Our goal is to help, really improve the quality of life for our residents and the people who live here. We offer grants for nonprofits, scholarships. We try to support community projects. The next slide there is a bigger kind of picture of what we do. These are some of our new sort of the work that we do. We're community funded, so we do rely on the generosity of local donors for the most part. Unlike other foundations, which might be one big fund funded by one organization or one family, we have multiple funds funded by multiple people that really care about the good work that you all do, and businesses for sure. We serve the community. We are a place-based funder, like I said, and we try to make grants here that support the Midlands locally and try to really address the needs that are specific to our communities. We also support donors. We have, these things called donor advised funds that many of you might know about, and other types of funds that go towards that people use almost like a charitable savings account. People put money in there and they use that to fund projects around their community. We do fund nonprofits. Obviously, we support you all through grant making, but also through some programming that we do through services like Midlands Gives, as well as some of our capacity building work. We know that you all are sort of the heart of our community. We try to support you as best we can. And then we focus on impact. We try to make sure that, one, our funding, we do invest it so it grows long term. We have endowments, but we also try to fund projects that have a deep impact within our community. And the next slide there, you'll see we actually just finished our newest three-year strategic plan, and it does have 4 main goals, and you'll see there in front of you. That is around philanthropic growth, which is a lot of the work that we are trying to do to be able to grow charitable giving in the Midlands. Midlands Gives is part of that, which you all know, but also really supporting our donors locally. Community support, we try to be able to give back into our communities and the institutions and our scholarship programs. And our focus really is around building community and also cultural vibrancy. As many of you know, we do have a focus. Some of our work is focused on culture and the arts, and so that's really still a part of who we are and what we do. Community leadership, we try to really help push big projects forward and try to be that sort of connector in the group to help really make our community stronger. And then organizational excellence, that's an internal thing which you all do, I'm sure, with your own strategic plan, is really how can we continue to do good work internally and build and support our staff and the infrastructure of our program. So there is a little bit of a shift, with our mission, vision, and values. We want to make sure we share those with you. Again, with our new strategic plan, it's a little bit of a refresh. You see our mission there is to connect and mobilize people and resources to strengthen our community. That is our mission. That is what we do, the core of what we do. Our vision is that big picture, right? What we really hope to see for our community, and that is a vibrant and engaged community where generosity abounds and all people thrive. Wouldn't we all love that, right? That's really our goal and what we would love to be able to see for our community, and that's sort of our North Star for us. And then certainly last but not least is our values. These are our core values that really guide the Community Foundation and our staff, and that's around community, connection, collaboration, and trust. And those sort of speak for themselves, but that's really how we try to do the work that we do in our community and the way that we interact with you all, our nonprofits, our donors, and other community partners. Just to give you a big picture as to really when I say place-based funder, we fund specifically in the 11 counties in sort of the expanded Midlands. And that's with our competitive grant making that comes directly from the Community Foundation's board. Now, our donors can give anywhere throughout the country, And we do have some statewide funding that we offer, but specifically to our real core mission, it's to serve these 11 counties in the Midlands. And I like to say it's from Newberry, Fairfield down to Orangeburg and Saluda over to Clarendon County. So it's sort of this big, like I said, expanded Midlands, and that's really the heart of where we serve. So the question we have for you, and we do have a quick little poll because there's about 25 of you or so on the call with us, is what county is your organization physically located? And we will open that up so you all can enter that in. There you go. So you should see it on your screen now, which again is what is your this is organization location, Chantrell. So let's actually not do that one. Nope. Chantrell, can you close that one down and we'll do the organization location poll? All right, so we'll forget that one. Go ahead and close that one out. You guys can X that out of your screen because I want to make sure we can keep moving. But one of the reasons we asked that question is because we want to make sure that we are funding in our entire region, all 11 counties that we have. And so that was one reason why I wanted to know kind of who was in the room with us, because we want to make sure that we're sharing this information far and wide throughout our 11 counties. And so that, so we'll try to do some other polls as we move on. If we have glitches, we'll keep on moving. But that was sort of, I just wanted to get that idea out there because all of our counties are very important to us. We can go to the next slide. So sometimes it's helpful just to see kind of big picture. This is us at a glance, and this was our information actually from FY24. We do have updated data, but wanted you all to sort of see with the Community Foundation, for the most part, we kind of fund a whole lot of things. We aren't focused on one sort of issue. I know in years past it's been maybe literacy or the arts only. That's kind of where we were, but this is a bigger picture for us as to really where our dollars go. And this is all of our funding, not just our competitive funding, I should say that. So the Community Foundation, we're really proud to say that we have awarded out more in grants than we actually have in assets. And that's important as a foundation to be able to say we're giving more than we actually have in-house. And again, these numbers have gone up a little bit. We've now awarded over $300 million to the community since our inception in 1984. And you'll see there what kind of the categories that our donors and within our own competitive grants, where those dollars go, what's kind of biggest to smallest there, with education and scholarships being the largest. 28% of that, in this year at least, that almost 23 million, 28% went to education and scholarships, and it's sort of gone from there all the way down to economic development, which there's still a little bit there, but not as much. We also like to point out by location where our dollars are going. And you'll see of that 22 million or so, over 16 million did stay here in the Midlands. So most of our funding is from the Midlands and stays in the Midlands, which we're very happy about. Another 4 million went outside of the Midlands, but did stay in our state. And some of that is our scholarships and other things like that. And we do, like I said, have some competitive grants that are statewide. So that is also reflected in there. And then the last number you see there, which is a smaller number but significant, which is over $2 million, went outside of South Carolina. But as you can see, the vast majority of this funding stays here locally, is from our local community and stays here locally. And that's really kind of the marker of a place-based funder. All right. So the next thing I want to sort of mention to you briefly is around nonprofit funds. This is one of the services that we can provide to nonprofits, and nonprofits can have their own fund. So as part of our mission to create a sustainable impact, the foundation offers nonprofits the opportunity really to establish a nonprofit fund, which can be endowed or non-endowed. An endowed nonprofit fund can provide a source of ongoing revenue to support your nonprofit's daily operations or unrestricted needs. So the organization can choose each year if they wish to take or withdraw that annual spendable allocation, or they can say, we don't want it this year, reinvest that back into the fund to allow for quicker growth. And that's really best for long-term goals, is to have an endowed fund if you have long-term perpetual goals, in perpetuity. There's also an option to have a non-endowed nonprofit fund, and that can provide midterm growth options for things that are like maybe project-based needs, like if you're doing a capital project or have a programmatic need that you're needing to raise dollars for, bigger dollars for, and you want to put that into a fund to keep it safe there. The entire balance in a non-endowed nonprofit fund can be depleted at any time. So whether you endow or non-endow, a nonprofit fund can only go back to support the nonprofit that it was created to fund. So there's an assurance there that the funds are put here at the Community Foundation, but they're specifically only for the use of the nonprofit that it was created for. There are many benefits to creating a nonprofit fund, including a pooled investment with an outside. So if it is invested, it's a pooled investment with an outside financial management team, and currently we're with Vanguard. So we do get lower fees because we have hundreds of million under investment, right? And so we do get lower fees than maybe you would be able to get on your own if you were investing. And we also provide accounting and financial services that include monthly and annual reports, as well as additional guidance from our staff as well. If you'll see that the current fund minimum to be able to start this fund is $50,000. And if you have any questions about it, certainly you can talk to our advancement team. You can reach out to us and we can connect you if that's an interest of you or your board, if you guys have some long or short-term goals for really building assets. I should have mentioned earlier, if you guys have any questions, you can drop it in the chat. You can come off mute at the end. We'll have time for questions, but you can certainly drop it in the chat as well as we go on. And then I will also talk with you all a little bit about affiliate funds. So we have what we consider smaller, but they are doing good work, affiliate funds within our community foundation. These are hyper local place-based funds. And we have one in Greater Chapin Community Foundation, the Orangeburg Calhoun Community Foundation, the Kershaw County Community Foundation, and Sumter Community Foundation. And each of those have their own fund that goes specifically back to that community. Both Greater Chapin and Sumter do have their own affiliate-owned boards who are actively making grants. It's community members who get together and they make grants from their fund, and they do some competitive grant making. All of these funds at this point do Midlands Gives matches. So if you have a physical location or you're housed in one of those communities, these funds do also offer matches during Midlands Gives, which we encourage you all to certainly take advantage of as well. And we'll talk about Greater Chapin and Sumter a little bit later in the presentation. And then I think this might be my last one because you guys have heard from me a lot. But I want to talk big picture about overall what our community investment at the Community Foundation, what our community investment priority is for FY26. And I'll say, this hasn't really changed a whole lot since last year. We do anticipate probably seeing some changes into maybe FY27 because we are starting our new strategic plan. We're going to be doing some needs assessments that really should guide our work again moving forward. So, but for this year, you'll see very little change that's happening. So the first priority for our competitive grant making is to increase livability and quality of life. And that really is that includes both, our communities grants that really focus on why do people love living here, what makes it a livable community. It also includes our disaster response work like the 1SC Fund, Midlands Community Response Fund, because certainly resiliency and livability are a part of increasing our quality of life. We also focus on increasing philanthropy. And for those of you who know us, you know Midlands Gives. We do have giving events throughout the year. We're currently in Black Philanthropy Month, and so we are celebrating that. That's a giving event that has prizes and matches and those kind of things. We hope you're all participating in that. But it's also a year-round platform, and we have over 1,000 hits to that site a month, excuse me. And so people really are going there and are looking for nonprofits to invest in. And so that is one way that we hope to increase philanthropy, as well as co-funding with other foundations. That's a real priority for us as well. Also, one area that we continue to sit in, and we will continue even into this next strategic plan. We just don't know what it'll look like. I need to say that, but we still will be working on and focusing on nonprofit capacity building. We know that's a need for our nonprofit community, and oftentimes when money is tight, that's one of the first things that goes. And so we'll continue to focus on nonprofit capacity building to really help you all shore up the infrastructure of your organizations and really making sure that you're able to do quality work. You have, the legs of your stool, if you will, are really consistent and strong. And then again, we also coordinate with other funders. So there's some other folks who are in that space, and oftentimes we try to then piece together the work that we're all doing to really support you all in your capacity work. And then the last one there is enhancing community leadership and collaborations. One of the goals of this team in particular is to make sure we're out in community, that we sort of know what's going on, we know some of the data, we can sit on different coalitions and collaboratives, and we can be a member of those so we can learn more and understand what's really happening on the ground. And as I mentioned earlier, we also are going to be doing some nonprofit and community assessments, and we're looking at current data that's out there, so we make sure that our funding stays relevant to what your needs are, as well as the needs of our community. So before I pass this over, does anyone have any questions specifically about some of the stuff that I just covered? All right, great. Well, I will pass it on then. We do have one other poll, and we'll see if it'll come up correctly. But one of the questions we have there is, what is your experience with CCCF grant making? And so you'll see the options there are, we currently have a grant from CCCF. We've applied recently but have not received funding. We have not applied for anything recently, and this is all new to us. Just want to get an idea of sort of who's in this space with us today. And there's a few seconds remaining on that. All right, so Trinice, do you want to kind of chat through the results of that poll with us?
Yeah, Chantrell, can you share our results from this question? Okay, so it looks like we're somewhat split evenly, but the majority of you currently have a CCCF grant, so that's great. And then we have a lot of new people with us where this is all new to them. So if you need additional support beyond this call, feel free to reach out to us. We do have a number of individuals it's tied with have recently received or have not received anything recently. I'm sorry, have recently applied but not received or not received anything recently. So thank you for taking a moment to complete that poll with us. And now we will move into what type of grants are available. So I am Trinice Carter. I am the Director of Community Investment here at the Foundation. And on the screen, you will see a list of all of the competitive grants that are available at the Foundation. And these are all grants that are managed through our community investment team. If you visit our website, yourfoundation.org, under grant opportunities, you can learn more information about all of these grants, but we will quickly go through each one of these, the eligibility and the grant timelines. There is also a tab on our website that says grant application dates, and you'll be able to see when these grants open and close on the website.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chantrell Mitchell. I am the Community Investment Associate, and we're going to go over grant eligibility for our grants here at the Foundation. So the first eligibility is to be tax exempt with the IRS, meaning to have your tax exempt status. So we do ask for that. We do ask that you will send us the letter that the IRS will send you saying that you are tax exempt. The second one is to be in compliance with the Secretary of State in the Charitable Funds Act division. So that means in their charities division, you will get a letter saying that you are able to solicit funds in the state of South Carolina. And if you're not sure about whether or not if you have that status already, you can contact me and I can give you the charities division's website and telephone number so you can get more information about that. And I do want you guys to know that it's different from having your certificate of existence. It's totally different from that. And the third eligibility that you have at least one full year of financial history. That just means that you need to file a 990 with the IRS. So if we can't see your 990 on the IRS website, we will reach out to you to see if you filed it. And we would just ask that you send us the IRS submission little postcard that you get saying that you did submit your 990. And if your grant requires it, we do ask that you do register for mentlessgives.org. Registration for Mentless Gives will start back up in September. Currently, we are in Black Philanthropy Month right now, so we're not looking at applications, but we will be looking at applications starting September 1. And if you're a returning nonprofit, then you know you have to do your annual profile update starting December 1.
So we're going to start talking about our capacity building grants in a second, but before we do that, we have one more poll for you guys. So Chantrell, if you would launch the next poll for us. And right now, we just want you to select up to 3 areas of capacity building support your organization currently needs from the list.
And you can scroll, just so you know, to find more. So it's not just those options you see there.
We'll give about 15 more seconds on that. So selecting up to 3 areas of capacity building support needed. Okay, Chantrell, I think you can go ahead and close that poll for us. And
they're still voting right now. Hold on one
second.
second.
They're still voting? Okay.
4 more seconds, everybody. Okay.
So let's see, fundraising, 70% of respondents picked fundraising. Next, board development and training, about 45%, as well as AI technology support, which falls under 35%. Some others, let's see, evaluation and data efforts. And then let's see if they're and networking, okay, as well as personal development. So thank you for completing that. And as we talk about some of our grants in a second, we'll see that some do fall in those areas. So thank you for completing that poll. And now I will turn it over to Amber.
Thank you so much, Tremise. I am Amber Westbrook. I'm a program officer with Central Carolina Community Foundation. And so just going to talk to you briefly about these nonprofit capacity building grants we have right here. So we do have our capacity building mini grant. So that provides up to $5,000 to nonprofits to assist organizational and financial stability, improved governance and growth. So it allows those organizations, all of you, to carry out your missions more effectively. This is not a grant for program capacity. This is to support projects such as strategic planning, succession planning, board development, and maintenance planning. There are a few other opportunities there, but look very closely at those guidelines to see more about what is the best fit for those projects. So the application for the mini grant is open November 1st through November 30th, and the program period for that will be March through September. Then we have, as we saw, many of you are interested in fundraising, of course. We have our fundraising school. So this is a course designed to build fundraising capacity for nonprofits. Past participants have developed special events, fundraising plans, technology systems for donor documentation, communication plans to current and potential donors, board of director engagement plans, and have written compelling cases for support for their nonprofits. This is a virtual 6-week program, and it's a must 2 people per organization as a requirement to participate to really maintain sustainability. So this fundraising school is taught by Janet Cobb and Sarah Ramjatan, and the classes are once a week in March and April, and then we have a graduation in May. So Midlands Gives is strongly recommended for this school attendance. And so we also recommend organizations that apply for this are past their 3rd year of operation. This program is very appropriate for staff and board members who may be new to fundraising or they may need a refresher. The application for this is also open November 1st through the 30th. And then, of course, our foundation also offers professional development scholarships. So this is offered through AAPC. Previously, we've offered scholarships for the Together SC Annual Summit and the Carolina Leaders Seminars. So now I'm going to hand this back over to Erin to talk about the Sumter Community Foundation.
Thanks for that. And if you have any questions about capacity building, certainly drop those in the chat and we can answer that later as well. So the Sumter Community Foundation is a board of local Sumter leaders and they do have a publicly endowed fund that is specific to supporting the people living in Sumter County. In years past, they've actually done capacity building mini grants. And you know, this board has been very thoughtful and said, we want to make sure that what we're offering is going to have the greatest impact it possibly can have. And so they're going to put their application on hold for a little while. They have a meeting here in a couple of weeks to really dig deep and to think through how can our funds be put to best and highest use. Just so you know, these funds would be restricted to any organization that has a physical location in Sumter County. So be on the lookout. If you're a Sumter County nonprofit, we'll be getting the word out as soon as we have it about what their grant funding will be this year. And we do have your information, and we'll send you a specific email once we have that figured out and once they're able to then promote what their process will be this year. But in years past, they will be offering Midlands Gives matches like we've always done. We encourage you to use that to your fullest extent. I will say to all of our partners who are in Chapin, Sumter, Orangeburg, Calhoun, and Kershaw, you guys are leaving money on the table, I need to say. So typically those matches range anywhere from $300 to $500, sometimes more for Midlands Gives. And every year there's money left on the table. So we ask you to really use those matches to your best ability to leverage additional dollars. So 1-for-1 match for any donation you receive up to the first $500 for the most part. And so that's Sumter Community Foundation. And again, if you're a Sumter nonprofit, we'll send some information out once we have it available and they're ready to promote what they're doing this year. And we'll move on then to Greater Chapin. A lot of you know Greater Chapin Community Foundation. This is the Greater Chapin area. So you see there the communities that they're specifically talking about: Valentine, Chapin, Little Mountain, Peak, Prosperity, and White Rock. And they are a very active board that does specifically fund organizations that are intentionally serving those communities. So you don't have to be located in those communities, but you need to have a very heavy footprint in that community. They can see the work that's being done specifically in those communities. And again, their goal is to uplift and strengthen organizations that are addressing the needs within the Greater Chapin area. That application will open September 1 through 30. These are really considered mini grants typically. It'll be opening up September 1. And that average award last year, just for context, was around $1,000. And so oftentimes this is for general support or for a specific project that you have. It's a short-term specific project that you need some sort of little startup money and or a little bit of money to take it further so you can specifically serve that Chapin community. They do also offer Midlands Gives matches. And that again is for that specifically though is for organizations who have a physical location in Chapin, the Greater Chapin area. So I should say the Midlands Gives matches specific to organizations physically located in those communities. The actual application and competitive grants for that that's opening in September, that's for an organization that's intentionally serving those communities or also located in those communities. So if you have any questions about that, please let us know, but that will be opening in September. And then we'll talk a little bit about the 1SC Fund, which is also something that we've been doing now for 10 years. And the 1SC Fund has been activated 5 times in the 10 years that we've had it. It is a statewide fund that is specifically to helping our communities recover from disaster. And it is currently open and is providing recovery and rebuilding grants for Hurricane Helene. And so we did, just for context, had over $6 million donated into the fund, and we are still making grants out of it. And that's the goal. You make grants for about 2 years post-disaster because it takes about that long, at least, to recover from some of these large disasters that we have hitting our state. We still have funds available. Our goal is to try to get those dollars out the door before the end of this year. And again, these are for recovery and rebuilding. These are no longer immediate needs. We're about a year out now, so it's no longer food or shelter, those kind of things, except for, so this is an example of what we're doing now. When we say sheltering, it's for folks who maybe are getting their homes rebuilt. Those are the only folks that might be displaced still, if they have a reason they can't be in their home while it's being repaired, so that we can provide some support for that. Folks who are still needing disaster case management, if you're doing tree removal, we still have a lot of that going on. Home and roof repairs, folks who are ready to get back into their houses now. They do things like house in a box and furnishing. So if your organization is serving one of those now 30 counties that have been considered a county for individual assistance that was really devastated by Hurricane Helene, if you're doing that work, or if you think your organization could be doing that work, there is a huge need out there still, and there's not enough folks who are doing it. I'll be real honest with you. So if you're located in one of those communities that is still feeling the effects of Hurricane Helene, we encourage your organization to see if this is some of the work that you could be doing. Typically, the award amount has gone up to $50,000, but we are looking at larger projects now. If you have a larger project that you're doing, if you have a history of doing this kind of work, a history of doing disaster response work, then the amounts could go up. We would really welcome that conversation with you. And that application is rolling. It's open right now. The sooner you get it in, the better, because like I said, our goal is to get these dollars out for the end of the year, hopefully. So we hope to have at least 2 additional rounds before the end of 2025. And so that past grantees, if you have been awarded a grant in the past, you can, as soon as you submit your final report, you can do your next application. So it's kind of open on a rolling basis. So again, if your organization is already doing this work, thank you very much. Please consider applying for Hurricane Helene grant. If you're not yet doing this work, see if there's something that meets with your mission and vision and values and the work you want to do. If you're in those one of those 30 counties, then we certainly welcome some of your thoughts and your hard work in those communities. Any questions about that? All right, and I'll try to answer some questions in the chat as we go along.
Okay, so now I will chat with you about the Hootie and the Blowfish Foundation Fund, which is a grant offered here at the foundation. And the Hootie and the Blowfish Foundation funds areas of need grants for public schools as well as nonprofits throughout South Carolina. So this is one of our grant opportunities that extends beyond the 11 county service area. Typically, the band will select up to 3 or 4 areas of need about January. And then organizations are invited to apply for the Hootie and the Blowfish Foundation Fund in February. This grant awards $10,000 per year for 3 years. So that's a total of $30,000 for the grant. And once again, it's a statewide grant. And the project year each year for the grant is July through June. So some of the areas that Hootie and the Blowfish Fund has funded in the past is work around veterans, recovery, homelessness, child welfare, hunger, and then once again, school districts, is arts, education, and public schools, focusing on those high need or Title I school districts here in South Carolina. So the next grant that I will talk about is the Knight Foundation. And the Knight Foundation invests in Columbia's core vibrant city. It's focused in Richland County with a hyper focus on the city of Columbia. So any projects in Richland County with a focus on the city of Columbia can apply for the Knight Foundation by invitation. The average award for the Knight Foundation grants over 2 years is about $70,000 to $76,000 for the average award per year. And the Knight Foundation typically it's a rolling grant application, and we typically will review and invite organizations to apply towards the end of the year, but it's rolling. If you have interest in the Knight Foundation Fund, you can always send me an email to just talk about the Knight Foundation. However, it is by invite only. And then another grant opportunity that we have here at the foundation is the Connected Communities Grant. It's a collection of CCCF supported projects that work to improve livability, quality of life, community attachment, and satisfaction here in the Midlands. This grant started in 2015 here at the foundation, and there are 6 areas where applicants can apply for the Connected Communities Grant. So a project must increase access to safe places to live and work, increase access to healthcare facilities and services, quality job opportunities, affordable housing, safe, proximal, high-quality recreational areas, as well as quality arts and culture. And I will talk a little bit about the quality job opportunities. Looking at that one, that's really looking at projects that will impact quality job opportunities in the present. So we focus less on like school-based programs or programs for students, but really those type of projects that provide quality job opportunities in the present time. And then an example of a project under that has been our Teacher Village in Fairfield County, where they are trying to increase retention of teachers in Fairfield County. So they had a project that fell under affordable housing where they offered housing for teachers, and Connected Communities paid for a component of that project. It was a component of a larger project. So if you're interested in applying for a Connected Community Grant, an applicant must be a 501c3 public entity, education institution, or faith institution. The Connected Communities Grant is one of our grants where you have to be registered on the Midlands Give site in order to be eligible for Connected Communities. The award amounts for the Connected Communities range from $10,000 to $60,000. So each request must range between $10,000 and $60,000. There is a match requirement for a Connected Communities grant. One of the purposes for this grant is to build philanthropy. And one way we do this through a match. So the match must be received after being awarded the grant. So it cannot be prior funding that you have for the match. So in year one, it's a 20% match. If you're applying for a year two grant, that's a 30% match, and a year three grant will be a 40% match. The LOI is on the grant portal, and that will open September 1 and close September 30th for the Connected Communities Grant. There are several sections of the LOI that you will complete. So you will provide your project title, purpose, and description. You will provide your overall project budget, plus your request amount. So not a detailed budget, just the request amount. And you will also need to tell us if this is a new or an expansion project at your organization. The Connected Communities Grant will only fund new or expansion projects at a nonprofit. The second round of the Connected Communities Grant is by invitation only, and that's when you will complete the full application for Connected Communities. That will open October 28th through November 18th, and then finalists will be invited for a finalist interview January 21st or 22nd. So those are 2 dates to hold. Those are hybrid interviews that typically last about 20 minutes, but they will be scheduled during that time period. So you will join our committee virtually to complete the finalist interviews. And then the project period for this year's Connected Communities grants are March 1, 2026 through February 28th, 2027. So for the Connected Communities grants, projects ultimately should enhance community connections in the 11 county service areas of the Midlands, incorporate novel approaches to creating a vibrant and connected community. So we're looking for new and vibrant ideas, raise public awareness about the region in the area, and provide a measurable level of community involvement. And that can be found through the number of volunteers that you have for your project and even the number of participants that the project reach. Once again, it must be a new or expansion project. Current projects will not be funded or considered, but it needs to be a new or expansion. And when we say expansion, we're not referring to, I was serving 20 individuals, now I can serve 50, or I'm able to serve not only Richland County now, but Lexington and Kershaw. But really, how is this funding making your project different or adding a different component of your project? And then lastly, promoting philanthropy across the region. And once again, that's developed through the match. And Midlands Gives can be used as a match for the Connected Communities grant. Another thing with Connected Communities, we love to see partnerships. So if you are able to partner with other nonprofits or build public-private partnerships through this grant, or if this is an opportunity to do that, we love to see that in those applications as well.
Tremaine, before we move on
yes.
to this one, we had a question about Hootie and the Blowfish Foundation. Okay. The question was, how does someone get invited?
So it's typically making sure, I would say, that the foundation knows about your organization. We work with the Hootie and the Blowfish Foundation to come up with nonprofits that fit their area of interest. So making sure we know who your organizations are and the type of work that you're doing. But when they identify their service area, we will work with them to come up with nonprofits that they would like to invite based on the areas they're funding. And you can always, there are periods when nonprofits will email me and just let me know that they're interested in Hootie and the Blowfish, and we do track and keep those inquiries. And sometimes if there is alignment with nonprofits that are interested, we will share those as well. Okay. General operating support grants. So our general operating support grants are unrestricted funds that are used for operations. So these are not programmatic grants, but we really hope that nonprofits are using these for operations. And it's basically saying, as a foundation, we understand and trust your work, and here is some general operating support to help you fulfill your mission and to support operations. These grants are $10,000 per year for a total of 3 years. So it's a total of $30,000 for the general operating support grants. Some of the requirements, although it's unrestricted, we do ask that you expense all funds annually before receiving the next payment. There is an annual report that you will complete annually for the general operating support grants. This is another one of our grants that require nonprofits to be on Midlands Gives to apply, and then be in regular communication with the foundation staff for the general operating supports. There are other opportunities that we build into the general operating support. Just this week, we had a networking session. We have quarterly grantee meetups where all the grantees came together for an information session and to work together and network. So we do have other opportunities built into the general operating support grant. So that application opens a little later. That will open January 1 through January 31st. We will do an interest webinar on January 6th. So, continue to check the website, and we'll also release the registration for that in a nonprofit newsletter. And then this is another grant that has a final interview session with the review committee. So that will be on April 1st, and that will be by invite only based on who applies and moves to the next round. The project timeline for the FY26 General Operating Support Grants is June 1, 2026 through May 31st, 2029. So I'm going to talk a little about the eligibility for the General Operating Support Grant. Once again, this is one of those grants that we are saying, we trust you're a nonprofit and we know the work you're doing, as well as there is some requirement for staff to be more engaged. So I'll quickly go through these. One, being a 501c3 for at least 2 years is the first thing that you would need to be. So I know earlier we talked about 1 year sort of as the minimal, but for general operating support grants, it's being a 501c3 for at least 2 years. Last year, the budget was $450,000. Organizations had to have a budget under $450,000. We are reviewing that this year, so that may change slightly, but this is the number from last year, just to give you sort of a ballpark. Having at least one paid employee who dedicates a minimum of 20 hours a week to the organization. So this will need to be a paid employee, not a contracted person, but an employee of the organization. Have applied for and received a grant from CCCF in the past 4 years. And at this point, the grant portal will go back so you can see if you're not quite sure, you can see sort of if you fall within that time frame by looking at the grant portal for your grant history. This is a grant that requires you to have your organization be in one of the 11 counties that we serve. So being in our 11 county service area, being registered on Midlands Gives, and also agreeing to, if you're funded, ongoing communication with the foundation, completion of our annual reports, attendance to the grantee meetups, and using the funds towards operations and administrative costs. So those are the eligibility requirements of GOS. And like I said, if any of those changes around the budget, that will be shared in the newsletter and on the website at a later date.
All right, I get to talk about our AFLAC grant. This is the AFLAC Charitable Fund Competitive Grant. And I'd like to start by acknowledging that AFLAC has been one of CCCF's In Good Company partners for Midlands Gives since its inception. So thank you, AFLAC. And the areas of interest for this grant is health and well-being and education. There are 2 cycles each fiscal year. We have a January-December project period. That application will soon open September 1st through September 15th. Then we also have another cycle, which will open March 1st through March 15th for July to June projects. We have awards up to $10,000. and this is open to any nonprofit in South Carolina, so it is one of our more competitive grants. There is very specific eligibility criteria, so please do pay close attention when reviewing those guidelines on our website. We do have a few updates that have occurred this year. And then also to note, because we do a lot of questions around this, but nonprofits currently receiving funding cannot reapply while they're still under contract. But if you do have any questions on that, I will be your contact. We're going to move on over to our scholarships. So absolutely love our scholarships programs. We have about 50 scholarship funds, and the 6.7 million has been awarded since 1994. This is some of our 2024 to 2025 data. So we've awarded over 725,000 to 213 students. And of those students, we had 63% of awardees identify as women. Over half are people of color. We had 31% first generation college students. And 71% of scholarships were paid to South Carolina schools. It was a median scholarship award amount of 2,000. And then 62% are renewable for up to 4 years. That's an 18% increase since last year, which is wonderful. That obviously is a big focus of ours is renewable scholarships. Goal is to support students to graduation with less debt, investing in our community's future. So we do ask that please promote this through your networks. The online application will open January 1st through March 5th. And now we're going to move on to our grants portal that has a new look. But this, before we get into that, this is our logon page. So when you do go to our website, yourfoundation.org, and you do go to the top where you'll see grant login, this is where it brings you. We highly recommend that you do bookmark this page. So move on over to the features of this portal. So as I stated, please do bookmark it. If you feel more comfortable bookmarking the yourfoundation.org, that's completely acceptable. You'll always get there. Within this, we do offer previews of applications within this portal. The link has been updated slightly, so now when you do click that, a PDF of a question list will populate for you to download. We also have a feature of this to collaborate. So we know that multiple members of staff will need to work on an application, follow-up forms, final report. We do have a collaborator feature that works where you can add those people. We'll show a tutorial on that later and where you can access that. And then, of course, we recommend you save your work as you go. It does automatically save your work, but we do recommend you do hit save at the bottom of that page just to be safe. Also, what's great about the portal is we do have the ability to import questions from your candid profile and then also to copy past responses from applications that are within the same program. So we do recommend please utilizing those features. Then, of course, this is your one-stop shop. So everything is here for you. Any historical, currently active request applications, your grant agreements, any particular communication guidelines you need to follow, and of course, any of your reports saved in this one spot. Now we'll kind of go to the next slide. This is a little bit of what that new applicant dashboard kind of looks like. So this is where you do click that apply. You'll see now we have these individual cards. You'll still have a bar up at the top to enter in an access code for a specific application if you need it. Then you'll also see the preview button I just spoken about, where you click that will give you a download to the question list. And then, of course, you can apply from here, but if you do need to see a little bit more of a summary of this particular program, you'll need to click that title at the very top of the card, and then we can move over to the next slide, and that'll show you what this will now look like. And then within that summary of this program, you'll see a click here. That takes you straight to that program's guidelines. So we try to make it streamline it, make it really easy for you. And then, of course, your contact for that program will be within that summary, and you can apply from there as well. And we can move on to the next slide. We do have an updated grant portal tutorial. This is where you can access and learn more about features such as the collaborator feature, but also what all the bells and whistles are within this updated application portal. So within this, before you start page is where you'll want to go, and then you'll click on this button to where you'll download a PDF guide of our grant portal tutorial for applicants. And so just give Chantrell a moment. She's going to switch over just for a second. So it will download this PDF. You'll see at the very top of this page, you can jump to specific sections. So we have, like, if you are trying to create an account, if you are looking for email confirmations, applying for specific funding, the collaborator feature, any of that, the collaborator experience on their end, how to navigate the applicant dashboard, and then updating your user profile. We also have, and you can just go to page 3 for me, Chantrell, just right through. You'll see where it says access video tutorial here. We have those links throughout, so it can help you if you are more of a visual person like myself, can help you walk through those instructions. All right, and now I'm going to hand it over to Chantrell for some reminders. Thank you so much.
All right. Just some reminders for this new fiscal year with our grants. Please make sure you're testing your grant portal login. If you think your organization already has a profile, it's just best that you email us so you won't create a double profile, because we want to make sure we keep all historic data together, and we don't want to separate the data from this year and previous years if you apply in the past. Make sure you clean up contacts in your grant portal. If you know that people that are no longer working in your organizations, please make sure you're going in and making those people inactive so they won't be able to log into the grant portal, just for security reasons. Mostly that way they're not applying for grants on behalf of your organization if they no longer work there. If you have a new staff person, please just contact us so we can add them to the profile versus you creating a new account for them. Because if you create a new account, it's going to create another organization, and we don't want that. As I said before, we want to make sure we keep all data together. This year is something new. ACH will be required for all grant payments this year. Again, ACH will be required for all grant payments going forward this year. So if we do not have your ACH information, you will be getting an email from me if you are awarded a grant. Just requesting your ACH information, and that form would be on DocuSign. So I would send you a DocuSign form. You would just need to fill out that form and upload a voided check or a bank letter from your bank, and that document would get sent to our finance department so they can upload it in our system. Again, if you're not sure if you have ACH information on file, or if you need to update your ACH information, that is important as well. If you think you have an old bank account with us, please contact me so we can get all of that information updated. And the last thing is making sure you update your GuideStar/candid profiles. As Amber stated before, the grant portal does have features that allows us to ask questions from Candid. And if you have an updated profile, it's just an easier way for you to get through your application process. So we just advise that you go ahead and update the information now in your profile. That way, when it's time to apply for grants, you're not taking time to do that. Are there any questions about anything?
Before we move off of this, I do also want to just do a general reminder, FYI, to you all. It's strongly recommended that any organization's emails come from the organization, sort of like ours is from yourfoundation.org or from Habitat for Humanity at whatever, .org, that kind of stuff, because there has been a big uptick in potential and attempted fraud over the last year or two. And so we are doing the best we can at the Community Foundation to try to safeguard ourselves and your organizations from that. But I will say to you that some of you have had people try to create profiles on behalf of your organization and get grants and money on behalf of your organization without you knowing it. So it is strongly recommended that you only use email addresses that are connected to your organization, because when we get emails from like something at Gmail or at Yahoo, we have to go through we intentionally will go through a lot of steps to try to verify that person is actually connected to your organization. It's a lot easier if your email address is actually connected to your organization. So please do your best to try to have only communication with us coming from your organization's email, because it raises a big red flag for us when it comes from a personal email address. So I think we can move on to the question section now, if you have any questions about what was just covered. But I know for sure there were some questions in the chat that I wanted our team to get to. And one was around DAF grants. That's always the big question. How do we get DAF grants? Well, DAF grants are just donors. And so the way you get those is really by cultivating donors. But what we do on our end, just so you know, we do not solicit our donor advisors that have funds with us, but when they do ask for advice, we freely give it, which is why we do say things like you need to have an account on Midlands Gives, because if and when, because it does happen pretty frequently actually, a donor asks for information about an organization who's doing X, right? We search all of the information we have, and that includes the Midlands Gives profiles. We share that with them, and it should be, and hopefully is a nice, robust overview of your organization with links so they can contact you if they want or to find more information. We also go through our grant management system to see any sort of work that you've done in the past. So we'll know, for example, applications that you submitted, we can say they're interested in doing X, Y, and Z, the kind of work they've done in the past. And if you've received a grant, we'll at least have the reports as well on the back end to say, and this is the kind of work they've accomplished. So those kind of things we do on our end as your community investment staff is we research you a lot, just so you know. And when we're out in community, we hear about the work you're doing, and we share that with our donors when they have questions about, you know, how they can, you know, spread their dollars and invest in different kind of organizations. And so if you get a call from one of us that says, hey, I need some information, that's usually why. It's because we have some donors who want some deeper information and want to know some new stuff. So that's how we provide services to our donors and our donor advised funds. But you all should certainly be cultivating those relationships as well. And I will say, and we say this a lot, and this kind of goes into the next question someone had about common pitfalls. When we say that you should thank folks, we keep saying that because a lot of folks are not being thanked. And that's just a simple thing. If someone gives you some dollars, please do try to send a thank you for that or acknowledge that in some way, because that does go a long way. Now, sometimes they specifically say, don't thank me, which is totally fine. But if they don't say that, you should make an effort to acknowledge that gift in some way. And so any questions about the donor advised funds before I move on to the question about common grant pitfalls? We do not have a public list of our donor advised funds, Darlene. I know some community foundations do that, and we might do that at some point. But honestly, one of the reasons we don't do it is because there's so many, and there's so many opportunities to get it wrong and misspell a name or forget a name and all those kind of things. And so we don't have a public list of that. We might at some point do something like that, but at this point we don't have that. So someone asked about what are some common grant pitfalls just in general that folks that we're seeing here at the Community Foundation, and I certainly will let our team think about that for a minute. And then I have a few that I will share with y'all that I see, and then we'll ask the team to also share theirs. One is just a basic that the proposal is just not clearly written. When we review it, we can't really tell exactly what it is you're doing or why you're doing it. We have to kind of piece together when we say things like, well, I think what they're saying is, so sometimes it's just not clearly written. We encourage you to certainly have someone else review it for you, drop it into AI, see if it makes sense, all those kind of things, just clean it up for you. But sometimes it's just not clearly written. We also, one of the other pitfalls is that it doesn't seem like the grant is well researched or connected to a larger community effort. Sometimes it seems like it's kind of a siloed effort, and we're like, well, what about all the other things that are happening in that same issue that's not referenced here? How does it fit into it? So being able to make that connection for us. Or for example, they'll ask for something and we'll know actually costs a lot more to do that or costs a lot less to do that. So why is it? So that you can tell that maybe it hasn't been researched as thoroughly as it should. One is that the budget doesn't match the narrative. That's kind of a big one, that we'll see that the budget doesn't kind of align with what they were saying. And so you're like, well, how is this connected? So the budget should clearly align with the narrative. And then the other one, which we see too often, is that the proposal doesn't match the grant requirements and what the grant is for. And I know sometimes people say, let me just try, maybe you'll get funded, we'll see. But we hate when that happens. We know you put a lot of time and effort into it. We have time and effort on our end for reviewing that, and it's just not even eligible. And unfortunately, there's a number of grants that they're not even eligible for funding, so they don't even make it to the review process. So we encourage you, if you have any questions, to ask one of our staff, is this what you're asking for, before you spend that time to do it. And if you see that it's unclear on our website, please let us know, because we want to clarify, because we don't want you guys out there doing extra work when you don't need to. And I will also say that if you know that it doesn't really align with what we're asking for, don't submit it. It doesn't look good on you, and it wastes your time. And time is money. So those are some of the common pitfalls that I see. My team can certainly chime in with anything else they want to add.
I think the only thing I'd add, Erin, is those opportunities you have for additional information that still obviously connects to the project. If there are some optional questions, actually like feel free to add something, especially if it's going to strengthen your project, strengthen our understanding, because we do look at those. But then also, if you have partners, and there is that opportunity to provide an upload with a letter, state that within, like use your opportunity to talk about that partnership. It does show, you've thought very much about the project, and it's always great for us to see the extra support that you also have.
I would just reiterate sort of those, making sure your responses are clear and concise in answering the specific grant question. And one of my favorite questions is around the mission question, and we now have it in most of our applications where it pulls from Candid. But that mission question, make sure it's your organization's official mission statement. There are opportunities, like Amber mentioned, to provide additional information. But those are some of the things, just those clear, concise answers and responding to the question that's being asked.
We have another question about thanking donors on like e-blasts and newsletters. And I think that is a great question. I do not think that is necessary. But I think a handwritten note is wonderful. But if you know that this donor in particular likes public acknowledgments, then you might want to consider that, with the caveat then that then sets the precedence that you publicly acknowledge donors. So once you start doing that, are you going to then do it for others? What's your threshold? Is someone going to feel left out if they weren't publicly acknowledged? So just know that once you start doing that, it does set a precedence for that. So you might want to maybe consider just once a year doing an acknowledgement of your donors, or how you want to do that. But just remember that donors' feelings could get hurt pretty easily, and it's understandable. So thinking through, if I do this for this one, what does it mean for all the others? So that's why I think a nice handwritten note is usually plenty. Do we have any other questions? Again, I think there's any time on our website or in this conversations where you're unclear, we want to make sure that you feel that we are accessible. And you could give us a call, email us, whatever you need to do. We do try to put as much information as possible on our website. We encourage you to go there first to try to answer questions, and then we can go from there to see about any other, kind of clarifying things that you might have. And again, we want you to reach out to us beforehand if you're not sure, because we don't want you to do work that you shouldn't be doing. We also can provide feedback. Our staff are not the reviewers for our grants, and so sometimes they do the first initial, making sure you're eligible, but other than that, we're not. So we can give you feedback. And our team have come from nonprofit work ourselves, and we are programmers at heart. And we would love to brainstorm out what you could do to strengthen it, or other things you could add to it. Those are the kind of things we like to do. So certainly feel free to reach out if you have some questions about things as you move forward. Anybody else? Termise, Amber, Chantrell, have anything else you want to add before we let these good folks go?
I just want to say thank y'all so much for participating and being a part of this. And thank you so much for all of the wonderful work that you do to support the community. And we are here to support you.
All right. Thank y'all so much for joining us.